And welcome to this week's Twin Peaks
Unwrapped
podcast.
Hi, Bryon.
I'm Bryon Kasaska, and this is Ben Durant.
Hello.
And we're going to take you on this journey for episode 3.
Yes, this is episode 3, written by Harley Payton, and it was directed by Tina Rathborn, and aired April 26, 1990. The rating was 11.3 rating, and it ranked 45 for the week.
Wow. So
we went from 5th place on the pilot to we're now at 45.
But last episode, you mentioned it was at 20.
Yeah, I think it was at 28. Yeah,
28, and it dropped. So basically, that episode turned a lot of people off.
They couldn't handle a little man talking backwards and dancing, and an old man getting kissed by a beautiful blonde. I don't think they could handle it.
No.
It was just too much.
Oh my God. So that was.
And the funny thing is, like we were saying before, like that is like when you think if somebody asks was like, tell me one scene from Twin Peaks, it probably is that scene. I mean, it's so. It's so amazing.
I mean, almost, you know what, the show is sort of like, it was out of its time. Like, it was ahead of its time. Yep. Like, if this show came out right now, it would be talked about.
Or maybe 2016. Maybe if it came out in 2016.
Yeah, like when the new one's coming out for a new generation of people. But because I feel like if this show came out around this time period, this would blow up the internet. It would be like, you know, True Detective, and people would have theories. And I mean, people do now. But back then, you didn't have the internet. Really.
No internet.
But I feel like this would be trending on Twitter. You know, even if the ratings were subpar, the internet would keep it alive.
Yeah.
And, you know, this show probably went on for a couple of seasons if, like the network kicked it off, but HBO or somebody else picked it up. You know, it would just be a different kind of show.
It would be. You know, there was rumors that Twin Peaks might come back, and we're talking the present here. And one rumor was that maybe Netflix would pick it up. And the thing with Netflix is they probably would have dumped all the episodes all at once, and then people would binge on it and with no answers before other people. And so it's kind of nice that in a way that's not Showtime, where you're still going to be forced to have one episode a week.
I like that.
Yeah, and so we'll be talking about Twin Peaks in 2016 week by week. And stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I like that model. I think shows like this would have a hard time surviving if we lived in a world where everybody just dumped because you like to talk about it and like think about it and like guess, and like if you can just watch the whole thing, right, the conversation just ends in a weekend, right? You know, like it dumps on Friday, by Monday everybody's already talked about it, saw it, we're moving on. And I don't want to live in that kind of world. I like the week-to-week mystery.
Totally. So Wrapped in Plastic number 50 kind of talked about, in a way, there was like two phases to the first season of Twin Peaks. Mm-hmm. The first phase, which kind of included the pilot, episode 1 and 2, kind of was an establishing phase where it kind of established the characters, kind of got you to know what was happening in Twin Peaks. Yeah. The second phase was kind of the dream phase, and it was the whole idea of break the dream code, solve the crime. And so basically from, now that we got to episode 2, where we had the dream, this point forward, we're kind of like dealing with the dream and trying to, rationalize it. And Mark Frost will kind of assign meaning to Lynch's abstract dreams. He will take those crazy dreams that was shot well before the first season was even worked on, and start kind of like saying, well, how can we put this into the real world? And
he does a good job.
He does.
The breadcrumbs, because I'm ahead, like I said, after season 1, if you're following along with us, watch that scene again. It just blows your mind. They did a good job. Like, I watched it, didn't know anything that was just, I'm like, oh, it's a shadow of a bird.
Right.
I thought nothing of it. Now it makes total sense.
Have we talked about this this Audrey Cooper relationship thing?
She's got a crush on him of some sort, she's in high school.
Right.
Which none of these people look like they're in high school.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. But she has a crush on him. And, I think he realizes it's just a silly thing, and he doesn't.
I can't tell if he seems like he in some way flirts back a little bit in his own way. Like he's still being respectable and stuff, but he definitely seems like it's like, oh, I like the smell of your perfume. It's like, you do?
Yeah,
and and things that like, oh,
But also,
at some point she will say, it might be later on, she will say she's 18. So,
and he does say you're very young. And
yes.
he does make reference to that later on.
And he discovers that the card that was slipped under his door, Jack with one eye.
Yeah, who slipped that underneath the door?
So we find out that it was Audrey. Like, he can tell by her penmanship.
Oh, yes.
And there's a scent of perfume on the card. So he knows it's probably a woman. He can tell by the slant that there's a yearning.
He's very good at this.
Yes.
He's a very smart guy.
I mean, those FBI agents, they must have classes on writing styles and stuff. But
and now, do we learn why she writes this note?
Well,
because
she does.
It's not the first time. Later on, she does another.
So
note.
she really likes him a lot, and so she's decided she's going to work with him and help him. So she's gonna become junior detective, and she's gonna be like on her own. She's gonna try to figure out the mystery of who killed Laura Palmer.
Well, she does recruit others.
She does.
We haven't got to that point yet. I don't
think we have, but
she does recruit others to help her. But she wants to become like, I'm gonna help him on my own way. Like,
I think she thinks that like if I can help him solve this mystery, maybe he'll he'll take her away with him. Or she'll get to leave Twin Peaks with him, and
Yep.
Yeah, it's a schoolgirl fantasy.
Yep. She has a crush and basically like gathers her friends later on and tries to crack the mystery.
Right. And so we're here at the breakfast so that Cooper said to Harry the night before, I know who killed Laura Palmer from my, I figured it out. Meet me at breakfast and I'll tell you. And so that's why we're at breakfast here, to meet with Harry, and Lucy comes along and to say, to talk about who killed Laura Palmer.
And you have the coffee and the pie, of course.
And I love that, Cooper's taking his time. He's like, okay, let's find out. It's like, I'm going to drink my coffee. I'm going to tell you about this dream I had. It's like, what?
So it was a dream. It wasn't a vision.
Well, yeah, let's bring up some audio. Why not?
Who killed Laura Palmer?
Harry, let me tell you about the dream I had last night.
It says a dream, not a vision.
Bet.
No. You were there. Lucy, so were you.
So Lucy was there.
Harry?
We'll get back to that.
My dream is a code waiting to be broken. Break the code, solve the crime.
The code, solve the crime.
So that's what you were talking about.
In my dream,
they weren't
Sarah
there.
Palmer has a vision of her daughter's killer. Deputy Hawk sketched his picture. I got a phone call from a one-armed man named Mike. The killer's name was Bob.
Mike and Bobby.
No, it's a different Mike and a different Bob. They lived above a convenience store. They had a tattoo. Fire. Walk with me. Mike couldn't stand the killing anymore, so he cut off his arm. Bob vowed to kill again, so Mike shot him. Do you know where dreams come from?
Yeah, that makes sense.
He's talking about, he's saying to Harry, you were there and you were there. And it's like, what? I don't remember seeing that in the last episode. There was we saw flashes of the one-armed man. He talks about his poem, and we see Bob, and then we see the Red Room. But there's no Harry, there's no Lucy, and he really seems to be referencing to the European ending, which has the Red Room, but it also has basically the funny thing is in the European version, Cooper is dreaming as well. But before he even dreams, Sarah has a vision, and I think Leland Palmer basically calls Lucy up from home, which is a comical thing. It's like, I'm not at the office. It's like, yeah, I know you're not at the office. And Leland's basically saying, tell Harry that I need to talk to him because Sarah's had a vision and stuff.
Yep.
So you have this whole thing. So it seems to me like they're making a reference to the European version, that there's all these different characters in it. And I keep trying to figure out, well, why did that happen? It's like, was there some kind of... it's kind of funny in a way, but it's like...
Yeah, why did they keep that in the scripts?
Right.
Or... in the editing room, they chose to keep that in there.
Yeah,
because you're right. I remember them all in there talking to Bob.
And then, so Harry meets up with Cooper, and they go to the hospital, and that's where they meet the one-armed man, and they're kind of and Harry follows him down to the basement where Bob is, it's kind of funny that he makes that reference, but the only way you can connect that, we don't see it, and so. We can kind of connect it to the European version that's where all the characters are.
Yeah, and that whole conversation, other than the room, didn't happen.
Totally.
Yeah.
So there's a deleted scene. I mean, not deleted, or you could say something in the script that we don't see in this episode, where Lucy's writing down everything that's like, okay, break the code, solve the crime, and she's really fascinated by this. So she gives another line that is not in the show, and she says, "What does the midget stand for?" And Cooper says, "Just about everything, Lucy." I think it's kind of funny. I mean, it's kind of
what
funny.
does the midget represent?
Right.
Just
That's
about
what
everything.
she doesn't say little man, and I don't think it's PC to say midget, but that's what she says, and he says it stands for everything.
Well, if you think about it, it kind of does, because he says like, I'm the cousin. Doesn't that look like Laura?
Right.
The gum. And then he says all these things. So
Yeah.
almost he does represent almost everything, and that's very interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, when we get to the movie, which is after the series, we will get another interpretation of the little man and what he stands for, and I think it's kind of interesting in a way that we'll come back to that. Somewhat.
And maybe I'm reaching here, but so Audrey puts the note that says One-Eyed Jack.
Yeah, Jack with one eye.
Jack with one eye.
Yeah.
But there's a place called One-Eyed Jack's.
Right.
But also there's a guy, Mike, who's missing an eye.
Well, not an eye, an arm.
Oh, an arm. But
But if you think
the eye?
Nadine is missing the eye, so there is a lot of like
Nadine's
one.
missing
Right,
the
she's
eye.
missing the eye.
Yeah,
But
she's
it is-
missing the eye.
Right.
Oh, so many people missing limbs. Okay,
Right.
he's missing the arm.
Right.
Nadine's missing
Body
the eye.
parts, yeah.
So
It's something, yeah. I mean, you could definitely try and make connections to say, well, isn't
Yeah.
that coincidence in some ways? So we're at the morgue. Albert is mad that he can't finish working on the autopsy of Laura because the townspeople wants to have the funeral.
Yep.
I'm not spoiling anything, or there's no spoil, but there's two things I think about this whole scene and stuff like that. One, what if Albert was able to finish his autopsy? Could he have solved the case of Laura Palmer? I mean, it's because he's really good at what he does, and he's mad that he's not able to finish his work.
Yeah.
The other thing is, could the killer be involved with trying to stop this autopsy from happening? Now I'm not saying that any of the players are actually in the room.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is what if they were trying to orchestrate to be like, we have to stop this from him finding any more information and stuff.
Yeah,
But,
you kind of get that impression that could be because they come in. Yeah, I mean, if you're watching the show for the first time, I could see that. Like, hey, why are we
stopping this? And he's saying this is really important. And my favorite thing is he says, you can. This is horrible, but you can dig a hole any day, and you can put a cast. And he's like, I can't do my work at another time. It has to be done now and stuff. So
yeah, it's true though. But they want to bury her, have closure.
Of course, I mean, this is the whole town cares about this. And then so then we have Harry who will come in and punch him. And we're not there yet, but we're looking at this. But I love the scene where so basically Cooper says, you know what, release the body, and then Truman gets upset and he punches them, and then they all kind of leave and they say thank you to Cooper, and Cooper's left alone with the body of Laura Palmer, and Laura's hand is kind of dangling. And he takes that hand and he places it back on her body, and it's I feel like he's like that protector, he's like here's this guy who's trying to be the savior, who's going to try to solve this mystery. And I don't know, it was a beautiful scene just to see the hand and trying to place it down back on the body.
It shows that he cares.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of, I think I said this before, that when I really fell in love with film and television and the behind the scenes of editing and cinematography, I felt it was this show because it really does have some beautiful shots and some beautiful scenes.
You're right. It does. I mean, if you look at it that standpoint, yeah.
Right.
And I mean, it's the small things. Sometimes some shows don't do the small things.
Yeah.
You pick up, and this definitely does have.
Yeah, and what's fascinating about this show is this show only used one camera. And, you think about some shows, they use 3 cameras where you can cut away and you do different shots. This show, you have a wide master shot and then you do a close up, but you kept on moving the camera around.
Oh my God! So it was a 1-camera drama.
Yeah,
or 2 cameras.
There were no 2 cameras, so okay, we're gonna do all our shots now on this, and then we're gonna go and do it again. And so, I mean, it's tedious, but it's still there's something to be said about that.
That's all. It's a lot of setup.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so this is actually the shot of Cooper resting the hand back on the body.
And he did have the dream with her. So I think the connection there, and is this the episode he says he's a good receiver? Or is that the
I don't
next
know
one?
if it is. I don't think it is. I think you're so much. This is gonna be a run on joke. It's gonna be episode 29.
Does he
Is this
say
the episode that's the receiver?
receiver? I have it.
Oh man. So we're now moving on to Invitation to Love. I could bring the theme song every time I bring this up.
Invitation to Love.
As Emerald and Jade.
Emerald and Jade. So there's these characters that are twins in the soap opera. That one is a good twin, one's a good girl, and one's a really bad girl. And so Leland is sitting. Leland is sitting down. He has a nurse, so he might be getting. It looks like he's getting drugged, or maybe he's getting. I don't know. Yeah, I guess he's probably being drugged as well, because today's the funeral, and it's gonna be a hard day. Mm-hmm. And there's the doorbell, and the nurse goes and gets the person at the door, and the person at the door is
surprise
Madeline Ferguson, and that is Laura's cousin,
who looks just like Laura.
She looks almost exactly like Laura.
Well, how does Laura have a twin that's a cousin?
Yep.
She just looks like Laura minus the hair and the glasses. It is basically the actress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is the same actress. It's the same actress. So to give you some origin on Madeline Ferguson, her name originates from a 1958 Alfred Hitchcock film called Vertigo. And in that film, a woman named Judy poses as a dead girl named Madeline. She changed her hair blonde to look like Madeline. And so that's just...
You just gave the whole show away right there.
I know.
Was she Laura Palmer the whole time?
So that was a theory. That's
a good theory.
That was a great theory. So that was a theory when people were watching this show. The theory was that Maddie was the one really killed, and Laura Palmer was pretending to be Madeline instead of that. So that was the thing.
That's what I thought briefly, because I was like, well, why would she look just like her? And that would be amazing, because Laura, as it progresses, you learn she did a lot of weird things.
Yeah.
And you're almost thinking she wanted to escape life, because she's like, I can't stop from guys liking me. When I try, but they just do. So maybe if she killed her cousin, who looked just like her, and then can live that life of I could be normal now, she's reborn, that would be interesting. And she does embrace her dad. I mean,
or that's her uncle, right?
Her uncle, yeah. But oh my God, you're my dad. I could see, really, they throw this in, you're watching going, oh my God.
Right. And so they sort of use the Invitation to Love to kind of say, oh, there's these twins on this show, and now we're going to bring in a twin cousin and stuff. And it's like, and we're kind of going back to that dream where the little man says, that's my cousin, but doesn't she look like Laura Palmer?
Yep.
So with the Invitation to Love, there were scenes cut again. And I think they made the right choice, because sometimes that Invitation to Love soap opera is great to kind of echo what's happening on the show. Mm-hmm. But they were smart to cut. There was a scene where one of the characters just got back from a rainforest, and he had to some kind of dialogue. Again, it's nothing important, nothing that we need to really talk about. But again, you could go to YouTube, go to the channel Twin Peaks Archive 1, and you could see the whole thing.
That's awesome.
I think it's kind of funny. It's funny to look at.
Is it taken from the DVDs, or is it the actual footage?
So it looks like VHS footage. So it looks like somebody, like how sometimes you go to these like Comic-Con, and somebody's got a tape or a DVD. Now you have DVDs. So you have a DVD where somebody was able to get the raw footage. It looks like somebody was able to get the raw footage.
That's cool.
I think it might even had time code on it. So I think it's like raw footage.
That's cool, because I picture it with the scenes kind of in between, but the raw footage that's cool.
Totally. So yeah, I get it. I get a kick out of it. It's a small little thing, but it's kind of funny to have this part of the show. What else do we want to say? Norma is at the diner, and she's there. Her husband's parole officer is basically saying, "Do you want to let Hank? Hank might get out of jail."
Now we learn Hank is her husband.
Right. Now
Hank becomes a very intricate character later on. but this is the first time you hear of Hank. So then you're just like, wow, more characters. But you also know that she is in love with Big Ed.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, she's with Big Ed. Wait, but she's married to Hank.
Right.
And we don't know much about Hank. I don't want to ruin Hank until Hank comes out.
Yeah, I don't think you need to say too much more. I mean, they
Yeah.
say that he went to jail for manslaughter, and I think what they were trying to do. This is the last thing I'm going to say about the soap opera.
Oh,
but so in the soap opera, the scene that was cut was this guy in Montana where he came back from the rainforest, but he's a bad guy, and he kind of comes off like a Hank character. So I wondered if they originally were trying to. I mean, when they were
Foreshadowing.
foreshadow or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But like I said, it doesn't work. So. Where should we go here? We should go to the next scene. So we have Bobby Briggs and Major Briggs, his father, sitting down right before the funeral.
And now, is this the first time that we...
When we met the last time we saw a scene with them together was he was smoking and he smacked him, and I think the cigarette went into the meatloaf.
The mom's meatloaf.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're
Now,
there for you, Bobby.
yeah. Oh God, I can't talk about it because it's later on, but oh yeah.
You can say with this scene, what's interesting is that what Major Briggs will suddenly say is that it's okay to be afraid of the funeral, and that sets Bobby off. He's like, "What? I'm not afraid. I'm gonna tear that place up," and stuff like that. But it's interesting to see to me, it comes off as the father is very understanding, and he knows that he understands that his son can be rebellious, but Bobby doesn't want to hear any of it, and he wants to,
He just wants to be a teenager, and he thinks he's too cool, and also you kind of feel like Bobby's got a lot more on his mind.
Yeah.
Other than the funeral, I think he's just more worried about what's going on behind the scenes.
Sure.
Because there's more to his character that we don't know yet. And I feel it kind of shows that he's very anxious. He's just kind of he doesn't care what his dad has to say about anything. He just wants to worry about himself.
Funeral? Afraid? I can hardly wait. Afraid? I'm gonna turn it upside down!
What does that even mean? Is he gonna be the best? Just destroy the funeral? I want to turn it upside down. He's the super cool guy.
Yes, it's too funny.
But I think he's got a lot of teenage angst in him, and he's very upset with himself, maybe, and with others, and also, he's kind of trapped inside this whole mystery too. He's kind of part of it, so.
Yeah, and I mean he's complicated. He was selling drugs. He was with Laura. He's now with Shelley, and he's a complicated.
And he's trying to keep Shelley away from Leo.
Right
now, we talked about one character that after this episode, I think we never see him again. Is Mike?
Yeah, let's get back to it. We got Albert here. I don't know if you want to do another dialogue, and let's bring that up for.
Next, we've got fibers of twine embedded in her wrists and upper arms. 2 different kinds of twine. Fibers of twine found in the railroad car. I matched the sample from her wrist. The same twine was used to bind the wrists of the Pulaski girl. Conclusion, she was tied up twice at different locations on the night of her death. Once here and once here. Like this.
Arms bending backward.
My arms bend back.
Sometimes my arms bend backward. Yeah. So again, there's the reference to the dream where Laura says, "I think I know her, but sometimes my arms bend back."
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. So now we have a physical thing where Laura was tied up twice, and to do that,
Now, no, like I was saying though, Mike, he's gone. He's gone from the show at this point. You never see Mike again.
That's not true.
Well.
Let's not get ahead.
I can tell you, I'm in season 2, and I have not seen Mike.
Maybe you don't realize that he is Mike. No, he will. I don't. There's no point. To me, he's not a major character.
But does Mike ever come back?
Yes, Mike comes back.
He does come back.
He comes back.
All right.
I think almost all the characters come back, even if it's at the very end.
You know what though? You're right though, because Mike had nothing, and if they even gave him anything to do, it would just take away from the show. It was not important.
Now, remember you said I want to quote that because that's when we come back to that. When he comes back, that's how I feel. That's how I feel when he comes back. It's was it really worth it him coming back? There's so many other characters. Do we have to have him back and stuff? So he's a great actor and he.
But they bring him back and it's not important.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, at least he's not the killer. Because
Maybe.
if they brought Mike back as a killer, that would be really
man.
horrible.
And that reminds me that, at the beginning here with the breakfast where Cooper talks about Mike and Bob and Truman says, Mike and Bobby? It's like, no, different Mike, different Bobby.
Bob.
But like, what are the chances that you have these characters in Twin Peaks named Mike and Bob, and then you have these other dream characters named Mike and Bob? And it's like, and I'll spoil it and say we might hear about another Mike and Bob in the show.
A third Mike and Bob?
Maybe.
Damn, you're gonna have name ideas.
I know, it's too funny. Oh man,
we really love Mike and Bob. We'll just keep the trend going.
Right.
So let's see what I have for notes. Okay, I know this episode does, and I think we hit upon it last episode, but this one for me is really they focused on the drug subplot, right? This is kind of like they opened it up with
they have where Bobby and Mike are in the woods and they're trying to get the drugs from Leo or something. So it's been a continuing story.
That happened, last episode, and this one I think.
Oh, you're right.
This one they continue it with this whole drug thing. There's people smuggling in drugs.
Oh yes, Jacques.
Jacques, we meet Jacques. Briefly.
Is it Jacques? It's definitely the Jacques. There's brothers.
The heavier set guy, the big guy, and he's like.
Well, he has a brother too, and I can't think of his name right now. But you're right. There is drugs being brought in, but it is connected. It's connected to Leo. It's connected to Bobby and Mike. They're bringing drugs in from Canada.
Yeah, and it's weird because I'm like, okay, we have a drug subplot now, and
it was always. I think it was kind of there, but we started
forefront.
We kind of started with Mike and Bobby in jail, and they're saying we're gonna be in trouble when Leo gets out because we owe money, and the money is in the safety deposit that Laura kept. So it was kind of there. So it starts off with just these high school kids, and then it goes to Leo, and then Leo has people that he gets stuff. So it seems like it keeps on escalating.
Escalating, yep. And then this turns into more of the Nadine and Big Ed.
They're at the house, and so she has these like little figures, and they have a patch on the like a woman like I don't know what would you say it was.
I didn't notice
you didn't
that.
See that? It just happened too.
So they cut to the scene, and they have patches on all the little figurines.
So I don't know if all of them, but there definitely was some that happened too. Before we stop doing this podcast, someday I'm gonna learn how to scrub.
So grab the little dot, and then bring that. Well, it disappeared, and then when you go further down on the screen, it's like a fine scrubbing.
All right, so we're looking at all these ceramic-y things, and there's one right there. There's a patch.
Oh, the patch.
The patch. So I don't know if that's something where Nadine likes to collect these ornaments, and some of them will have a patch on it.
I mean, can we ruin why she has a patch, or should we wait?
I think we can wait. I don't think there's anything. Especially because.
Yeah, let's wait. Because we'll have nothing to talk about then. But, we learned that Nadine, is really she loves Ed, and,
right.
I think she wants to do good for him.
Yeah,
almost.
and I don't think it doesn't come off as Ed loves her, really. Like,
he's just kind of like, I like Norma.
Yeah,
but
I'm
in love with Norma.
I'm stuck with you.
Yeah, I'm stuck with you, Nadine. But you learn in the future why. We'll
you're
almost like he can't leave her.
Right.
Right now, you just think he's a jerk.
Now we have a scene where Audrey is in a peephole watching Jacoby and her brother Johnny. And Johnny, he has, I don't know if we'd say mental problems or something.
Yes.
And he's wearing a Native American headdress, and Jacoby's trying to get him to take it off. And there was going to be a plot that they decided not to go. But originally, Johnny was going to have some kind of information about the who killed Laura Palmer, and Jacoby was going to try to work with him to try to figure out the mystery and stuff of that. But they dropped that.
I think that's a good idea because that would have been too much. And this is also you find out that Audrey does this a lot. She likes to spy on people.
Right.
And this
but the whole show is we're all kind of we're always kind of spying on each other.
But she has this spot, so this tells us that she has spied on people before there.
Yeah.
She goes there. She must go there a lot, so she knows. I mean, that goes into her brother's room or a
Right.
room with a brother. And Jacoby
So there must be all these secret passages in the hotel there.
So she knows.
The
She
Great
knows
Northern.
more than what, and she can get
Right.
information easily.
So there's a scene. There's a scene now. We're in the funeral, and the pastor is having some things to say, and I mean everybody's very somber here. But in the original script, it was kind of like everybody's looking at each other, like, oh, Ben Horn's looking at Catherine, and this person's looking at this. Like they're all kind of like secretly talking, and they're still kind of having their business that they do, which I don't think would be out of place.
Yeah.
But the interesting in the script was that Audrey saw Madeline, who is like, wait a minute, that looks just like Laura Palmer. She's thinking, and she kind of looks for Cooper to see if he's looking, and he's kind of doing his own thing.
Yeah.
And in the script, it says Cooper is taking notes on everything, and he's trying to figure it all out. But it seemed way out of place for this. I think this you need to have a somber moment where people are just, taking it all in.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been.
But
Yeah.
the thing I liked was that, like, okay, we are addressing that there's this woman here who looks just like Laura Palmer at the funeral. But
And you kind of feel like is that Laura with a wig on,
Yep.
dyed her hair, and she's like, I'm watching my cousin being buried, and I'm starting anew.
sounds good, right?
That could be a good theory. I mean, but it's not. It's not the case.
So Bobby has a theory in this during the funeral on who killed Laura Palmer. He says
What was Bobby's theory?
he
can't
says
remember.
we all knew Laura Palmer was in trouble. You know who killed her? We all killed her.
Oh, yeah.
In a way, like he's basically saying that, like, we didn't really want to help her. Like we kind of knew that she had some problems and stuff. Like we all knew that
They enabled her. All of them.
Yeah, or they just didn't. They wanted to look the other way, and they only wanted to see her as the perfect, girl and stuff. They didn't want to see that, maybe she had a drug problem, or maybe there's some other issues that she was dealing with and stuff. But I thought that was a kind of a cool little thing. Like for Bobby to have be such a mess, that's so insightful in some ways. That there's actually they do show some. They do kind of show her looking at Madeline for a second, but they don't really make a reference. Oh, now she's looking at Cooper.
Yeah,
and
Audrey's
Audrey
looking
there.
at Cooper, and they're making flirty faces, and
So there's this scene.
the log lady's here.
Yeah, the log lady, as she in her usual getup, she didn't change. In the script, they changed her into being like a fancy dress for the funeral, like to be all like I don't know if it was all in black, but like she was kind of like in an attire that would be appropriate for the funeral. I'm glad you need her to stay as this earthly tones. You don't want to change her and stuff.
Yeah,
But,
and she has a log.
yeah. And so there was another little piece that was taken out. It was in the script, and I don't know if they ever did film it. And it was before this whole funeral, there were some workers in the cemetery, and they were testing the hydraulic mechanism, and they were lowering the coffin bed up and down, and I think they were trying it out, and maybe a guy was actually on a coffin bed testing it out.
Yeah.
But it's foreshadowing what's about to happen here with Leland and stuff like that. I think it's out of place.
Yeah.
I don't think you need it, but I think it was a way of foreshadowing, saying that maybe they knew there was some problems with this mechanism, because it's gonna, Leland jumps on the casket and it starts going up and down, up and down. Stuff. Yeah. Funny thing. It's like, oh, right now we have Bobby and James like, you are dead. And I, as a 15-year-old, I used to think that was the funniest thing ever. Like, you are dead in slow motion. No.
And then James, because now everyone has to remember that James was with Laura.
Secretly.
And Bobby was with Laura.
Right. I mean, he was the star football player, and the homecoming queen was Laura, and they were a big item and stuff.
But then he was cheating.
He was cheating on Laura with Shelley.
Yeah, and then James wasn't cheating on Laura at all. I mean, he had secret feelings for
Donna. Right. I mean, I think they started to have sparks at that picnic that they went to,
Yeah.
but he didn't act on it.
Yeah. But the way the show goes, I'm sure it would have happened if Laura.
I'm sure,
lived.
because everybody was with everybody. I mean, I don't always like to admit it, but it was the soap opera, so everybody has to be with everybody. And yeah. And so we have Leland, and I love Sarah Palmer's like, don't ruin this too. It's like, what else have you ruined and stuff? That you're ruining this, and they're both a mess right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
Laura's dad is just on, and it's just so uncomfortable because the coffin's just going up and down.
Yeah. And you can hear the sound of the mechanism.
Yep.
And the next...
And he just,
Laura.
it's so
Right.
funny but awkward and just absurd.
Yeah, totally. And then the next scene that we go into is like, I definitely think that we're supposed to laugh at some of this stuff. And
yeah.
like this shows it. The next scene we go to the Double R diner and we have Shelley talking to some old men that, patrons, and she's kind of showing them, this is what happened with Leland. He jumps on the coffin and goes, and I think she's using a napkin dispenser or something as the casket. And they're laughing. So next we got into Ed and Hawk and Truman are sitting at a booth, and they said, he's not one of us here, and they're talking about Cooper coming over. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is a really cool scene. I think at some point I want to maybe get some audio, but I don't know. It might be too early. Well, let's just do it.
Note, Hawk, Big Ed.
How would you like some fresh huckleberry pie?
Oh, well, you had to have some huckleberry
Love a
pie.
slice of pie.
Yeah.
Norma, slice of huckleberry pie, heated, vanilla ice cream on the side, coffee.
Coming right up.
And she gave a weird look
Yep.
to those
Big Ed,
guys.
how long you been in love with Norma?
Oh,
Yep. He lost that bet.
Ed, looks like pie and coffee's on you.
So he's going to talk about.
Okay, what'd you fellas
Yeah.
call me in to talk about besides the highlights of the dinner menu?
You better tell him.
Somebody's running drugs into Twin Peaks from across the border.
This is what you were getting at with
Yeah.
the
Been
drugs.
this
Yeah.
for 6 months trying to set up a bust, top to bottom. Nobody walks.
Who's targeted?
Jacques Renault, bartender at the Roadhouse. We figure him for the middleman.
Get about another minute or so.
Now, Ed's been doing some undercover. In fact, the night
Should I
we
bring
got
it
into
down?
town,
No, I want to hear
we
this.
keep
This is the
Renault
part I want to
out.
hear.
We think Renault slipped him a Mickey.
Felt like somebody hit me with a log splitter.
Ed, I didn't know you were a deputy.
He's not.
Well, it's a little outside your jurisdiction, don't you think?
Somebody selling drugs to high school kids. And I figure that's everybody's jurisdiction.
I call Ed in when I need him. He's not the only one I call. Thanks, Norman.
I started this too early, but that's all right. We're getting to the point.
This must be where pies go when they die.
yes, this is my favorite line right there.
It's great.
Okay, Harry. Would you please tell me why you really called me in here?
Cooper, you're gonna have to go along with me on this, even if it sounds a little weird.
I'm with you.
Twin Peaks is different. Long way from the world. You've noticed that.
Yes, I have.
That's exactly the way we like it. But there's a back end to that that's kind of different, too. Maybe that's the price we pay for all the good things.
What would that be?
There's a sort of evil out there. Something very, very strange in these old woods. Call it what you want. A darkness, a presence. It takes many forms, but it's been out there for as long as anyone can remember. And we've always been here to fight it.
We.
Now,
A secret society, the Bookhouse Boys.
the book, are those the guys with the drugs?
No. These guys are the Bookhouse Boys. Truman and Hawk, and so these guys are a secret society that have been around for decades, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And their whole purpose is to stop the evil in the woods, and we don't know what the evil in the woods means.
Yeah, because I'm rewatching this, going, where I am, they've not talked about the evil in the woods.
Well, it will be addressed at some point.
in
but
season 2?
Yep.
Okay, because I'm just, yeah.
Right, but that's why I think it's really interesting in some ways. But it's like, to me, it's almost like we're dealing with Gothism, like we're dealing with other forces and
nature.
and nature. And
Yeah,
it's really,
yeah.
To me, it's fascinating in some ways that there could be something more to it. I mean, they're still being very literal in the sense that like we have these drug running things, and like they consider that part of the evil around them.
And we did have that weird guy in a ski mask watching.
Sure, so maybe
those
they're going to
guys.
stop them, right? So right,
Yep.
it's like so. But I'm really fascinated by that. That there's this other stuff that people are not really, they're not part of the police force, but they're working together to stop bad things that are
Yep.
going on and
Yep,
stuff. And
yep.
yeah, it'll be revisited and stuff. So another thing, so they actually have a sign that they used that. like when you're part of society, sometimes you have a special shake that you do, like a handshake and things like that. What they do is they take their finger and they put it to their temple and they kind of bring a line down and stuff like that. And they've actually done this in previous episodes before we even knew that they were the Bookhouse Boys. There was an episode where it might have been episode 1 where Truman sees Big Ed and right when they meet each other they do the sign. And there's that, and then he says, "Oh, I think I was drugged by Jock at the bar," and stuff like that. So that's interesting that they had this sign, but Laura does her own sign in the Red Room Dream. She takes her I think it was index for both the Bookhouse Boys, and she uses her index finger and she kind of does it down her nose. So that, and to me, it's kind of it was similar. It wasn't her temple, but it was still kind of like, is there some other like signs, like you need to know the code, like if you're part of the society you need to know the secret language.
That's
and stuff
interesting.
like that. Yeah.
And then we see Jacques for the first time, and now I think he's trying to sell drugs or he's trying to get drugs.
He's the person that basically he's like the mule. I mean, like it's funny. There's a reference like I'm no mule, but like
he is a mule.
But he's the one that actually brings the drugs over the border.
Yep.
So him and his brothers would do that. And
he's the one that slipped the Mickey because he works at the bar.
Right. Yeah. So I think you're right. We've heard reference to him, but we've never seen him.
Yeah. So this is kind of like this whole. You find out where Leo and all these people are in this drug ring and
totally.
Yeah. You're like, oh my god, so there's more to this town? the layer of this town has just gotten bigger.
Yep.
Oh, and then
Josie and Harry?
You find out that Josie and Harry are secretly together.
What are you talking about? What show have you been watching?
Do you find that out? Yes, you know they're together now.
Yeah, but we knew they were together from the pilot.
Oh yeah, we did. Oh yeah,
that was the whole reference. That was the whole reference to like, I mean, because we learned in the pilot, and then in the first episode, Cooper says to him, "So how long you been in love with her?" And so it's actually a reference to Why Big Ed. So like the whole thing with the bet was Harry knew that when Norma came by, that Cooper would figure out that Norma and Big Ed were together and stuff like that.
Because he's good like that.
Yeah,
you're right.
We do have a scene where we're still talking about ledgers, and we're still trying to say it seems like Catherine might be trying to destroy the mill, and she's trying to bring that. But we're talking about spying, and here's another different type of spying where we have Catherine has an intercom and she's listening in on what Harry and there's Harry and Josie's doing, and that's a lot of that where they're kind of spying and looking into what.
See, this subplot for me wasn't as interesting until later on.
Yeah.
Like in the beginning, I become so invested with Cooper and the death of Laura and everybody else that the subplot of the drugs in this, I feel like it didn't grab me yet. It doesn't grab me till later because there's just so much going on. You kind of have to pick what's your interest.
Totally. There's a lot to take up. I mean, I feel like I've watched it a couple times and you watch it again. It's like, oh, now I understand what this plot is. Like we were talking about.
I'm doing that right now. Yeah. As we're doing this podcast, I'm understanding more.
Right.
Because I
think it was like one of our previous episodes. You were like, okay, so Ben, he want the mill, and we're talking about no, he wants the land, and like what is going on with that? Right. Because it's complicated. I mean, there's people out there who have maps trying to chart on all the different storylines, all the different characters. I mean, it's a complicated show.
You need a big map.
So I think we only have maybe like one more scene or so.
Yeah. I don't have much notes for this, so this is all you because the next episode I will have lots of notes.
If anybody was listening to the last episode, I think I remember hearing that last time. It was like one.
I looked at the wrong one. I looked at my notes. You need.
I said this when we weren't recording and stuff. But I don't think you need notes. I mean, you're coming in it from brand new, seeing it through the first time, and I think I love that fresh perspective. And that made me think about like was a previous episode where you were talking about that Laura and Donna might be having an affair together and stuff like that.
Yes, I thought they were in love.
That's right. So the interesting thing about that is the Secret Diary of Laura Palmer book has Laura puts initials of all the people she slept with. So when we get to the time where
am I right?
I'm not saying you're right. I'm not saying you're right. All I'm saying is when we do get to around the time for the Secret Diary of Laura Palmer where we talk about it, we'll have to go and look. We'll look at the initials and stuff. But I found it fascinating that you drew those conclusions that maybe they were lesbians or they were.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, I think that because like when you have when girls are friends with each other, girlfriends, they can be closer than when guys are friends. They're very, they're just girls
Unless you have
hanging
a
out.
bromance like Cooper and Harry.
Yeah, you have a bromance, honk on the nose. But I think I think there was something going on with those two, and maybe not like in a sexual way, but I feel like they probably they liked each other a lot. But maybe they did, But to me, it was hinted at.
Right. And that's why I like that fresh perspective.
Yeah.
So I don't think you always need to bring notes. I think what you're sharing is good insight and interesting perspective.
But I have to take note. I have to remember because I'm a little bit ahead, and
Yeah.
I want to. But rewatching this and talking about it really connects the dots from what I'm watching. So it's actually, I'm happy I'm ahead and I'm reliving the past because then it helps me understand the future.
Sure.
Does that make any sense?
And you get to rewatch the Red Room stuff. I mean, there's some good stuff here. So I think there's maybe one other scene I was interested in talking about, and that would deal with Cooper and Hawk. They're in a bar, and I think that would be really cool just to talk about if I can get to that. Let's see. So we're at the
dance.
Yeah, we're at the Great Northern, and Leland's hanging out there. I think he's dancing. He's doing something. I would love to. Maybe in a second I'll get audio when we see Cooper and Hawk. Maybe get some audio of this.
Okay, and I want to talk about the scene though.
Yeah. Well,
I feel like the father. He's remembering Laura. He's having a breakdown. Everybody's dancing, and if I remember correctly, I mean he kind of goes crazy, but the people help him instead of laughing at him, or they all start doing this dance, right? They all start doing the dance he's doing.
A future episode, not this episode.
Oh,
I know.
What is this one?
No, I don't think. No, it's not this one. It's a future one.
Oh.
That's okay. You're still on the right track.
See, I am lost. I really thought. Is it the next episode?
I don't know which one it is. No, I can't remember now. But you want? Well, give me some audio here for a second.
Godspeed.
I might have missed it. Let's go back for a second. We'll turn it off.
See, he's like, "Come dance with me." I really thought this is the one when he starts dancing. And,
he does dance, but he doesn't. There's another time where Benjamin Horne and Catherine are there, and Catherine actually makes it into a dance when he's having problems.
Okay.
So we're gonna we'll get back here. So now we're gonna get some audio again here. So we're the end of
my favorite music, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I loved it.
And there's actually lyrics to this because Julie Cruz, who's the singer in the Roadhouse, actually had an album called "Falling." It's like falling in love. So
oh my god, that's awesome.
I'm still terrible at the scrubbing here.
It's fine. Well, it's in a cut.
All right, it'll cut eventually. So I don't know. If
it's just this music and
Harry and Josie making out here.
Yeah, here we go.
So now here we go. We see a moon in the night.
Do you believe in the soul?
Several.
More than one?
Blackfoot legend. Waking souls that give life to the mind and the body. A dream soul that wanders.
Dream souls. Where do they wander?
Faraway places. The land of the dead.
Is that where Laura is?
Laura's in the ground, Agent Cooper. That's the only thing I'm sure of.
Yeah, that's an interesting insight right there.
Dream souls. I mean, I don't know what to make of it, but it feels like it's connected to his dream. I mean,
yeah.
I also almost think like the idea of waking up. I feel like in some ways Leland woke up like he was kind of in a trance, and that he kind of woke up and started dancing and stuff. There was a couple of things that it was like that. I brought meaning to that. The whole idea of the dream soul and where does it wander and stuff. And I don't know. It's
and
something.
There's two souls, and then
multiple souls. Huh?
I mean, Laura, and then the dream he had with the midget saying, "I'm Laura's cousin." What if the midget is really Laura's cousin that we met that looks just like Laura,
Yeah, that's something.
but represents in his dream just someone because he hasn't met her yet.
Right.
When we had the dream, nobody's met Laura's cousin.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't have a face in his dream. So then we meet Laura's cousin, who looks just like Laura. So the two souls thing, I don't know.
I don't know, but
Right? I mean, you can really,
you can
spin it and put it into anything you want, really.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, but I find it fascinating and
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, so yeah, you had mentioned about Leland being carried away, and they are
Okay,
very supportive.
Yeah, you're right.
And stuff.
Huh? I
and
really thought it was the scene.
I
You're
mean,
right.
it's very similar. I mean, he does it again where the
He does
music
it a
starts.
lot?
He does it a lot. Yeah, I mean, the actor Ray Wise, so he's like
he can't dance.
Yeah.
Everybody has to cry.
Ray Wise actually tried out for Harry Truman's part when he was going to do this stuff, and David Lynch, I think, and maybe Mark Frost thought that he would be better off as the father of Laura Palmer.
Yep.
And so he gets the script. He's like, I don't remember Leland Palmer. And he's looking through it, and it's like, He cries when he gets the news. He cries when he finds out Laura's dead. He cries when he goes to the morgue. He cries. I mean, like it's like all this guy does is cry.
Seriously.
And now all he does is dance. But yeah,
dance, sing, and cry. Later on, not the crying so much. But yeah, I think it was a good episode. I mean, I think it was that one episode in every show where it takes to point A to point B. And, you know, we got Laura's funeral out of the way. We met some, we were told about some interesting characters that were, you know, Henry and
Hank there.
Hank, and then the whole drug, and then the creepy crawlies that live in the dark woods we don't know anything about.
Which I don't know if we ever know anything about, but I mean, but we could talk about it because you had theories about people in there and stuff about ski masks and
we
stuff.
met the ski mask guy in the woods, and you're telling me
you're saying the evil in the woods, right?
You're telling me that we haven't. In the whole show, they don't really tell you who that guy in the ski mask was.
Right, but I like the idea that like you're connecting the evil in the woods to people like the drugs.
Yeah, I mean the drugs. I mean, I think they're keeping the bad out, and the drugs are the bad. But it does get eerie when he's talking about it, saying the drugs. So maybe at night the drugs are brought in, and that's the evil they're keeping out.
Right.
But they also keep it very ambiguous that it could be supernatural.
It could be supernatural. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I like that idea of. I mean, I love the idea of the supernatural. I love the idea of the dream sequence and other things that could be out there and stuff.
It could be supernatural, and they have a secret society to keep it out.
Right.
So
the Bookhouse Boys. I like that.
Yeah. So that makes you even feel like something. You know, like it's something. You know, only they can take care of.
Yeah,
like, nobody else can know.
And there's
about
a history about it. There's a history going on. I mean, this is going on for decades. So, like, you know, like men pass it on to other men, and maybe father to son, and
their fathers did this, and now they're doing it.
Yeah, so I mean, I like that. I hope they play that up more, and I hope they even. I would love to see it in the new series if they would bring that back.
And it can't be much of a big threat because if only 3 guys can take care of it.
Well, I think there's. I do think there's a few more? I think there's more.
All right.
I think there's a few more.
Because there's just 3. It's like
That's
Big
funny.
Ed and those 2 guys are like, yeah, we can take care of it.
It still goes back to the town. You know, the town on the sign says 51,000, blah blah blah, whatever it is, 51,000. Still, originally Mark Frost and David Lynch wanted it to be 5,000 townspeople.
Because you don't see a lot of people.
You don't see a lot of people, and I feel like that would make more. It still makes more sense that it was an intimate group. They all knew Laura Palmer because there's not that many people in the town. And I do wish they could have said. I wish like maybe the new season would be like they're like painting over the one and being like, it should have said 5,000. Somebody, those kids keep adding the one.
Yeah, those kids, they're tricking people.
Yeah. The only other thing I want to say was that Harry Payton, who wrote this episode, was earned an Emmy nomination for this episode. He didn't win, but they were nominated for his writing in this episode.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did they win? Did they ever win anything? They were not.
I think they did. I think they won. I think they won 2, but it might have not been like. It might have been like set dressing, and you know when we get to the end of the first season, I'll come up with
music.
The Emmys and stuff. Yeah, but I think they did win 2 Emmys, but it wasn't for like. It wasn't for like director or for actor. It was like one of these like behind the scene things. I think. But.
I think the acting gets better with the show because when you first watch the first episode, it blows you away. The acting is like, what am I watching? But then you get used to it, and I think a lot of the actors, you can tell, become comfortable with their role, and it doesn't feel as cheesy anymore when you first watch it. You know, by this point in the series, we're only episode 3, technically 4 episodes we've seen. The show's kind of taking on its life. And also the music, I want to mention, like, the music sets a tone for every character. You have the love music, which we've talked about, but then you have the jazz music when something more comical and light and fluffy is going to happen. And I feel like that music just sets the tone, and you become accustomed to it. You're I hear the romantic music. Right. Something's gonna romantic.
Laura's theme. So, and like you recently got the soundtrack that I heard. So if you look at the soundtrack, it'll be like Audrey's Dance, or it'll like the name of the name of the song sometimes will be like Laura's theme. It'll be named after the character.
Cool.
I don't think they all are, but there are a few of them. So that like even the people who were coming up with this stuff said, we feel this belongs to Audrey. We feel this belongs to Laura. And
Yep. It reminded me of the old cartoon Doug. You ever see Doug on Nickelodeon?
It's been a long time.
And everybody had their own theme music.
Oh man!
So like, Patty Mayonnaise would come in, you'd hear her theme, and then like everybody would have their own theme.
Yeah.
And it was jazzy, like Twin Peaks. I'm gonna have to Google this.
So you think, when do you think Doug was? How long ago was that?
That was early '90s.
Early '90s. See that?
Mid '90s, because I was younger, but I remember like it would be the jazz and like weird music. Everybody had their theme song. So it kind of that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, cool.
So we're on Twitter at
Twin Peaks Unwrap. So instead of Unwrapped, it's just Unwrap. Unwrap that plastic.
And then,
but you could find us if you search for Twin Peaks Unwrapped, our name is given that way. So
and Facebook.
We're on Facebook, and we're Twin Peaks Unwrapped at gmail.com.
So questions,
comments,
or anything.
Tell us how we're doing.
Yeah, we'd love to hear it.
I'm Ben Durant.
I'm Bryon Kazaska.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna end this like we do every time we do the show with a Diane tape. This was Scott Frost, Mark Frost's brother, who did the dialogue, and Kyle MacLachlan did the voice. And here we go.
Diane, 12:01 a.m. Black Lake Cemetery. A new day for all but the dead. Sorry, folks. In the recorded history of man's organized attempts to civilize this planet, and more specifically their communities, men have always formed groups, clubs, or societies, often cloaked in secrecy, to protect and preserve certain elements within their social structure. Twin Peaks is no different. Sheriff Truman, Hawk, Big Ed, James Hurley, and others unknown to me have taken up that mantle. They call themselves the Bookhouse Boys, defenders in what appears to be an age-old fight against a kind of darkness in the woods surrounding this town. This is clearly a place that inspires dreaming about darkness and light. And who knows what dreams are real? Deputy Hawk spoke tonight of a soul that wanders, a dream soul, a Blackfoot legend. With her burial today, I hope Laura's spirit finds more peace wherever it is now than it did in its brief time on this earth.